they exist.
Right there.
And thank you so much, Angelique, for noticing and acknowledging the fact that this is the first time that we see a woman, and the first time that we see a black woman in this area and this world and these works of Tolkien. You know, this is necessary. This is a revolutionary moment for cinematic and television, and it is an honour to be a host of that. What we see is a great amount of relatability with Disa. You know, she is a mother, she is a wife, but she also has magic. She has magical powers, and she has this passion and ambition for her people, for her home, and for her own self-worth. And I know that there are many, many women out there like myself who will be able to connect with her and her joy and her sense of self. I auditioned for that role when I was 2 days away from giving birth. My costume alone is designed to be able to feed my child in between takes. That is the power of a female dwarf, and that is the presence that is necessary within our industry more than ever.
It feels like it's an example.
So the Rings of Power series, which are inspired by the works of Tolkien or whatever it is Jeff Bezos could get his hands on, will be premiering in 2.5 weeks on Amazon. Will I watch? Sure. Am I prepared to be disappointed? Yes. So far from the trailer, what I've seen is a very generic fantasy series. Nothing exceptional, although my understanding is this is the most expensive series ever made. Jeff Bezos has money to burn. Okay. But, you know, back to the point of this video. If you've been paying attention to the cast interviews, especially the interviews given by Sophia Nomvete, then you'll know what the issue is. Sophia, my girl, my woman. That doesn't make any sense, but the point I'm making is this. Sophia has a strong sense of entitlement, a belief that somehow her role in Tolkien is revolutionary, inspiring, groundbreaking, or in some way exceptional. Sophia has been given interviews about how groundbreaking this is to see someone like her in Tolkien. It's not groundbreaking. It's not groundbreaking, and it is not some compensation for some great wrong, because, believe it or not, Tolkien was never about excluding people for the sake of doing so. Tolkien has made it perfectly clear that his world of Middle-earth was, in fact, a love letter to his beloved England, which he believed never had a proper mythological history the way that many European countries, such as those of Scandinavia, had. So he wanted to create something for his beloved England. That's what Lord of the Rings was. So this notion that somehow Lord of the Rings was meant to be a free-for-all, and that, as the quote went, Tolkien is for everybody. That was one of the quotes given upon the first interviews. It is true that Tolkien is for everyone, but that doesn't mean you should feel entitled to be in Tolkien. You can and should be able to appreciate Tolkien for the work that he put out, not, as Sophia puts it, an interpretation of Tolkien, which is usually euphemism for we're going to add some modern lens to Tolkien's work that Tolkien himself never cared for. This is disrespectful to the author, but never mind that. Sophia seems to believe that she is entitled to be in Tolkien's work.
It means absolutely everything. It is everything. It is everything for people of colour. It is everything to progress forward in the film and television industry, to be doing something of this scale and to be positioned, as Princess Disa, as a woman of colour, as a mother, is exactly what our industry and what this incredible piece of television needs. Everyone was cast because they were the absolute best person for the role, and to be part of a redress of balance within this world is an honour.
No more than Matt Damon should have been in The Great Wall, a movie about the building of the Great Wall of China. no more than any white or Asian person should be entitled to be in a movie about Nigerian history and folklore. I wouldn't, be happy if some of the works of the Nigerian American author Nnedi Okorafor was made into films and TV series, and they, for some reason, feel the need to put white and Asians in it, because the works of Nnedi Okorafor are heavily rooted in African, more specifically Nigerian culture, folklore, history, and spirituality. This means there should not be any white people in it. In the same way, a movie that takes place in ancient China or Korea and focuses on ancient Chinese and Korean culture and history and folklore should not have any non-Asian people in it. I don't understand this belief that things that are rooted in European folklore, culture, and history should, for some reason, have non-white people in it. This is what I refer to as woke token diversity. It's superficial, it's shallow, and it's unnecessary. So that my dear Sophia thinks this is some sort of necessary redress of balance means that Sophia is completely, totally out of the loop. Or maybe she's way too into the loop of wokeness to realize that, no, Sophia, you are not entitled to be in Tolkien, and you and every other Black person should be able to watch Tolkien and appreciate Tolkien's work without inserting yourself racially in it. You should not need to see someone with your coloring in Tolkien to appreciate what Tolkien is. So here's how my brain works. When I read Tolkien for the first time, I was in awe and inspired. Same thing with Harry Potter. And I thought to myself, I want to create imaginative worlds just like that. But in my case, being of African descent, I wanted to create worlds that were inspired by Africa. And so everything that I've written regarding fantasy and adventure series are rooted in some sort of African culture, history, heritage, mythology, folklore. And no one in those stories is white, and no one with any kind of logical, rational thinking would expect anyone in a story that takes place in a mythical ancient African kingdom to be white. That to me is just common sense. I don't understand this belief that you should be inserted into a story that clearly is rooted in European history and folklore because it somehow is a free-for-all. I do believe, I've heard the theory that, sadly, this may be rooted in low racial self-esteem, a belief that what you have as Black people is not good enough, which I vehemently disagree with. Recently, I just did a review of the novel Half a Lion, which is rooted in Cameroonian folklore and mythology and culture, and I thought it was brilliant. And as I mentioned before, the works of Nnedi Okorafor, heavily rooted in Nigerian and African folklore, mythology, and culture. Africa has its very rich history of folklore and culture and mythology. So really, there is no need for people of African descent to be leeching off European culture and folklore. Part of the problem is, with the woke white liberals. Often their version of diversity is tokenism, throwing a bone to the Black people. Often in the form of tokenism. Let's take a white character and tokenize that character and make that character, like a Disa. Why invest in actually bringing the works of Nnedi Okorafor to life on the screen when you can just create Disa and make Disa Black? This is the problem. It's lazy. It's lazy. It's insulting because, again, it creates the bigotry of low expectations that Africans have nothing, that they don't have anything worth telling, worth portraying on screen. And again, the works of Nnedi Okorafor, Tomi Adeyemi, the Half a Lion series, and various other African and African descended writers are proven otherwise, but their works are not being made into series and movies. So it creates a problem where those of African descent are just basically leeching off those of European descent, and the white liberals have no problem with it because it allows them to play the role of savior and condescend and like, oh, I'm just doing you a favor because I'm a good person. You're not. Really, this is token diversity, this is woke diversity, and this is not remotely interesting. So, Sophia Nomvete, girl, you're great. I'm sure you are. I've seen some of your work in the past. And I get that. You're a mother. You're a woman of color. You said this repeatedly in every single interview. But Sophia, that doesn't make you special. Your role as Disa, I'm sure you did a great job. It still doesn't make you special. You're not doing anything revolutionary. Nor are you entitled to be in Tolkien, in anything related to Tolkien. You are not. Anyway, I wish you all the best.